to Box Office Maniacs, and tonight I got an exclusive review for you, which we hardly ever have. I don't think, well, we have had some in the past, but not too many. This is of course, Spider-Man Homecoming. Now, I actually got to go see this last Wednesday, but I've been so busy doing other stuff, I have not had time just to sit down here and do a review for you guys. But finally, I found the time, so here it is. Here is my review of Spider-Man. Now, the strange thing is, every time Vince and I do a superhero movie review, nobody ever watches it, which I don't really understand. It's superhero reviews and the Fast and Furious reviews we never get any views on, which I think is kind of weird. So I'm going to repeat myself here from the last review because nobody watched our Civil War review. I think there's like 10 people, 20 people. I don't know if it went up since I looked at it. I've always been a Spider-Man fan. In fact, that was one of my earliest memories of a superhero was Spider-Man. I absolutely love Spider-Man, and I wanted to be Spider-Man like I think a lot of kids did growing up, because that's what Spider-Man was. He was a kid, basically. He was in high school. Just a regular, everyday kid who happened to get superpowers and could crawl up walls and shoot webs and, you know, all this cool stuff that every kid ever watching Spider-Man probably dreamed of, having that superpower, because it was an amazing superpower in that suit. I was always obsessed with the Spider-Man suit. That was one thing that I mentioned on my last review, is growing up, I was obsessed with the Spider-Man suit. I can tell you, my earliest memory of it was because I always thought, you know, could you actually make a Spider-Man suit? How difficult would it be to make something like that, make it real? And I don't know how many people remember those Mezco figures they used to have. They were sort of like a 12-inch action figure, and they had real cloth outfit on and a sort of a squishy rubber head. And Spider-Man was the one that I had. And I'd always remember looking at that thinking, oh, they did it here. Somebody hand-stitched this outfit. And that's how, you know, they made this Mezco outfit. Somebody sat there and just knitted this outfit for this figure. You know, you're a kid, this is what you're thinking. And I always thought, man, it's so cool. Maybe I could do it in real life. So maybe it could happen in real life. And then I don't know if anyone remembered the old Spider-Man TV show, which I actually liked. I thought it was pretty good. I hated how they did the Spider-Man eyeballs, though. And that was, of course, when growing up as your kid, that's one of the other things you obsess over, are how did he make those eyes for the Spider-Man suit. For the TV show, there were round discs, like somebody flattened out like a spoon and stuck holes in it, and that was basically the eyeballs for the mask. And it's kind of goofy looking, but, you know, I guess that's the only thing they could come up with back then. But I did like the gigantic, like, wrist web slingers that he had. I thought that was really cool. He had, like, cartridges around his wrist, and you know, you could shoot his webs off of it. So as you can see, I used to be a huge Spider-Man fan growing up. And I still am. I'm still a huge Spider-Man fan. So when the Tobey Maguire movies came out, I was psyched. I mean, come on. It was Sam Raimi directing these, one of my favorite directors ever, in charge of Spider-Man. I mean, how much more excited do you have to get? However, I love Spider-Man, don't get me wrong. The first Spider-Man movie I thought was great. I got chills, I got goosebumps at the end of the movie. And I think the second Spider-Man movie, up to a certain point, was one of the best superhero films ever made. And then, of course, the third one, they just completely destroyed the franchise, basically. The one thing I never liked about the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man was pretty much Tobey Maguire himself, because he just looked like he was about 35 years old in the movie and just never came off as a teenager. Still, the movies were great, though, and the suit was ridiculously cool in the movies. But again, how did he create the suit? He couldn't have, because he would have had to glue everything together. It was a ridiculous suit in the movie. Even though it looked cool, it was not a practical suit that somebody stitched together. So all these years later, we get Captain America Civil War, which is the introduction of the new Spider-Man. And as soon as I seen this kid on screen, I got excited. I told my wife, Spider-Man, oh my gosh, Spider-Man. And now comes the suit that Tony Stark made, or his company made. That makes so much sense now. Makes so much sense. Because, yeah, that kid could not make a Spider-Man suit. The Spider-Man suit that that kid made, I don't know, I don't remember if they showed it in Civil War. I think they did. That would be kind of suit that you could make as a kid in high school. Not the technological, amazing Spider-Man suit that you see in the comics and in the movies. And, you know, he could not have done that. But who could have? Tony Stark, because he, of course, is Iron Man, and he has billions of dollars to spend on this suit. So that being said, the new actor, which I don't know what his name is right now, I will look it up, and probably Beryl will let you know here on top of the screen someplace. But the new actor playing Spider-Man, I loved him. I think he just came out swinging. He came out shooting his webs and swinging across the city, and, you know, he is great. And that, if I had seen that when I was 10 years old or 9 years old, I'd have been, yeah, that is Spider-Man. Because that's how you picture him as a kid, as a high school kid who has high school problems and who sounds like a kid, looks like a kid. He don't look like he's 30, 40 years old. I don't know how old he is in real life, but he looks like he's 14 or 13 or however old he is in this movie. He looks the age, unlike Tobey Maguire, who could have probably been his dad in that movie. And of course, Aunt May is aging backwards, so now she's this young Aunt May. And the thing is, okay, first of all, the thing is here about this film, I think a lot of purists will probably not like this movie or will have a lot of problems with this film because this is not the Spider-Man that came out in the cartoons. This is not the Spider-Man that Sam Raimi made. This isn't Spider-Man and Friends. I mean, this is a brand new take on the web slinger here, on the webhead. This is a brand new Spider-Man for this new century, and that's what they needed here. They needed to put some energy into the Spider-Man film again and make it something new, make something exciting. And that's what they did here. This is not the predictable Spider-Man. And even though it's an origin story, oh my God, they did such a great job with this origin story because everybody knows Spider-Man, everybody knows Batman, everybody knows Superman, everybody knows where they come from. Do it like this. Any other origin story that if you have a popular superhero, if they're going to remake Spider-Man or remake Superman or remake another movie, you know, the origin story was this in the movie. So you got bit by a spider. I did. Did it hurt? Yeah. Origin, right there. That's all you need. Literally, that's the only mention of the origin story of Spider-Man throughout this entire movie. And I was like, oh, I was waiting for a flashback or here we go again, and nothing. They completely cut that out. Nothing like that in this movie. So great. Love what they did. That they didn't have to. They did not have to have that. So let's get into the story itself here. It's called Spider-Man Homecoming. And it's, of course, the homecoming dance when he's in high school. So that's, you know, where the title comes from. If anyone's wondering what it's about, that's what it's about. So, again, like I said, this is an origin story of Spider-Man. And he's learning sort of to be Spider-Man. He knows how to be Spider-Man, but he don't know how to be Spider-Man. He's learning on it. And you just heard that. I'm filming this on the 4th of July. Those were fireworks that were just shooting off outside. If you're wondering. Or it could have been gunshots. I don't know. So he's learning to be Spider-Man in this movie. And it is an origin story of sorts. But it's a great origin story because it's an origin story without being an origin story. It's like it's like sort of like Batman Year One. He's learning to be the character. And as you're watching the film, you are learning to like this guy. You're learning the new character here. Even though you know Spider-Man, you don't know this kid is Spider-Man. I've always been a Marvel fan, and I'm always looking forward to the next Marvel movie. And I always go into it thinking to myself, I'm going to love it because, you know, I love the character. I don't ever go to a Marvel movie thinking, oh, here we go, another Marvel super... No, I'm always excited. I'm always so super excited to see a Marvel movie. There has been, of course, Marvel movies I have not liked. A lot of the X-Men movies I haven't liked. None of the Wolverines until Logan I haven't liked. I wasn't crazy about Doctor Strange. And there's other ones, you know, out there as well that were just sort of mediocre or okay. So I'm not in love with every single Marvel film. But, you know, for the most part, I go into a Marvel movie excited to see it because I want to see these characters that I love And that's what Spider-Man Homecoming is sort of a love note to the fans. Even though they've changed the character quite considerably in this, I'm totally fine with it. I'm completely fine with it. Because it's new. And like I said, it's new. It's something I haven't seen before, and it's all good. It's just great. Everything about the new character and the suit that he has and the story here. And of course he has the best friend now that he's never had in any of the comics or the TV shows or the movies. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's not canon. He's never had a best friend. Oh, that's not. But who cares? It works for the movie, and it's fun. And he's a teenager. Of course, a teenager is going to have a good friend in high school. It makes sense, people. Just like the suit in this movie. All of it makes sense. All of it is great. And who else is great in this film? Michael freaking Keaton is great in this movie. So awesome to see him back in a superhero film as the villain. And he is awesome in this movie. He does such a great job in this film. He plays the Vulture in this film, and a lot of people don't know the character. I don't know the character that well. I know of the character, but I'm not that familiar with the Vulture, so I can't tell you if this is the actual Vulture like he was in the comics. And the story here is a pretty solid story. For an origin story, it's a pretty, really, really good, deep story. And the thing with the story here, it's more of a character piece. It's more of a building character story, not so much of an action superhero blow things up, save the world type of story. It's much more character driven, and that's what I really liked about this film. They could have went with a crazy, super ridiculous action story like the first Spider-Man that had the Power Ranger Green Goblin flying around blowing everything up. But they didn't. They kind of went with more of a deeper personal story, and that's great. I mean, it works so well for the character and the movie and everything. I just love the story here. The other thing I really liked here, and I don't think they really even captured it that well in the other films, and I just remembered Andrew Garfield as the other Spider-Man. I forgot to mention him. I didn't really like him as Spider-Man either, because he also looked too old to play the character. And he was sort of he just wasn't Peter Parker. I mean, his acting was really good, and wasn't bad, but he just wasn't Peter Parker. He wasn't Spider-Man. So he was okay. I mean, but this guy is really good. And the one thing I think, like I was about to say, I don't think they're really captured in the other Spider-Man films is the sense of height, of him crawling up the walls and the amount of, what he can actually do. Because if you're Spider-Man, you're crawling up a 100-foot tall building, you as a viewer watching this movie could be dizzy watching it because he goes up to such height. I don't want to give away spoilers here for anything, but there's a scene in the movie where he goes up to this place, and the way they're showing it, I really got like this sense of dread, like, wow, what happens if he actually falls off of there? He could actually kill himself. I mean, because it's such a height, and he doesn't fly. I mean, he has webs and stuff, of course, obviously, but still, a web isn't going to save him if there's nothing else around and he falls off of this thing. So, it was kind of like that, and it was like they did such a really great job showing the perspective of the heights that he can crawl up to, and sort of the dizzying image of when he's up there. So in all, I loved Homecoming. I don't think it was as good as Civil War, or Winter Soldier, or Wonder Woman that just came out. I don't think it's quite there yet. I think the sequel will probably reach those amazing heights. But as a starter movie and an origin film, I fell in love with this kid playing Spider-Man. I loved the villain and really enjoyed the story. Loved his sidekick in the film. Just really great. Another great character. So in all, I would have to give Spider-Man Homecoming a 5 out of 5. I can't wait for the sequel. I can't wait to see Spidey in the Infinity War, which I'm sure he's going to show up in. So if you're a true Spider-Man fan and you don't want to see anyone messing with his suit or his origin or adding a best friend, you probably won't like this movie that much. But if you go into it with an open mind and thinking to yourself, they need to do something different with this franchise. Give me something new. You will love it. I think you will absolutely love this film. I came out of it super excited and just wanting to see more. Now, as for the end credits here, there are two things. So the credits will come up, and then there's a scene there about halfway through the credits, and then the credits will roll, and then there's a scene at the end of the credits as well. So there's actually two scenes here. Of course, you know about Marvel films, you never ever leave until after the credits, the final credit. But sometimes lately they've been doing like the mid credits and then nothing at the end. So, but there's two of them here, and they're both awesome, absolutely awesome. So you want to stay for both of those. So no worries here. Spider-Man is the real deal. Fantastic film, fantastic new actor, incredible new suit, really freaking awesome, which I could talk about, but I don't want to have any spoilers, so I'm not going to say anything else about the suit, but it's so cool. And the humor. One thing I forgot to mention here in the closing here, the movie was funny. And that's, again, what Spider-Man needs to be. He's a wisecracking teenager. And it's funny. There's a lot of really hilarious scenes in this movie. And it's great. It's not like Guardians of the Galaxy funny, but it's still a pretty funny film. And a lot of comedy. And it was really, really great, the fact that they had comedy in this movie. As much as they did. So I hope you liked the review. If you did, make sure you hit that subscribe button so we can bring you more exclusives. Well, probably not that many, but we'll still do reviews when they come out and see them like the regular people and wait in line to get into the theater to see it all the way. You know, we're always in the back of the lines for some reason.